In this video, I'm going to share with you how we turned around a small to mid-sized business in about 10 minutes. Now, we didn't turn the business around in 10 minutes. It took about 6 months. I'll give you a brief explanation where we saved a company about $3 million, and they had one of their best years for profitability in the last 10 years. So I think this will apply to just about any small to mid, even a kind of larger enterprise, but I just want to make it a relevant case study of what your interests are. So the context here, this company, maybe about 100 employees, comes to us. They're in the transportation space, trucking. In fact, if you've eaten a tomato in the last few years, it was probably on one of their trucks at one point. And they were having just operational issues, financial issues. And so this is kind of the process we took them through to first identify the problem and then assess kind of the capability gaps and then actually design solutions which were implemented over a period of kind of months to about a year that helped them to turn around their business again, saving $3 million in costs, specifically insurance claims costs, kind of operational improvements, which ultimately led to far greater profitability. So let's get into it. So let's start with kind of the phases here. Again, it's really just two parts, which is like diagnosing the problem and then constructing and implementing a solution. And if you want to add a third step, you can think of it as diagnosing the problem, creating a solution, and then implementation, which often takes a far longer time. Whatever way is easiest for you, but those are really the two steps. Right? You have to understand the problem first. And I think this is where a lot of like business leaders and business owners that I work with go wrong, is there's often a gap between what you want and what you need, or in other words, what you think versus what you actually need. And just like one example of this that's obviously from a much larger organization, but a good friend of mine, his mom knows about the work I do in coaching, consulting, training, and she works for the VA. Okay, so Veterans Affairs, she's a nurse, and she's saying like how, oh, maybe we need like, their management has talked about needing like a culture change project to improve employee engagement and productivity. And I was like talking to her one day, and she was explaining how her government issued PC every single day that they work from home crashes for like an hour. And the help center that's like run through the VA, like they call and like never get an answer, and they have to sit there for an hour. And so it's like, okay, the VA thinks that they have like a culture issue, that like our nurses, when they work from home, they just aren't doing stuff. They're not productive. They don't care. It's like, no, you have a tech systems issue because no wonder employees are frustrated and not as productive when they're wasting 2 hours a day. So again, that's that gap of what is the actual problem here? Okay, at a surface level, we think, well, the problem is just not like lack of productivity. Well, what's the root cause of that? We think it's employee like engagement and motivation, but what it actually is systems and tech. Okay, so you need to like get down to the root and investigate research, okay, both external research and internal to the organization to actually understand the problem. So in this case, a helpful framework sometimes to start with is your good old-fashioned profitability framework. As a management consultant, I know this quite well. Profitability is comprised of revenue minus costs, but again, break it down a level. You have the price, like the average customer value, the average transaction value, right? You can segment that out across your various products and services times the volume you're selling them. And then you break your cost down into fixed and variable. And then, all right, variable, obviously, they're going to shift based on the quantity or volume of services or products you're selling. And I know you're thinking like, Jackson, this is super basic, but like this helps you to structure your thinking so you can actually get down to the root of it. So like when this trucking company came to us, we could literally look, okay, your financials are not what you want. Price. Well, is your average, like how has your rate changed in terms of like what you're billing these clients for freight? Like for us to take a ton of tomatoes from here to there, has that rate changed? And could you increase it? Quantity. Well, is it a worse season? Because that would be outside of our control. There just aren't as many tomatoes or other agricultural goods. The amount of farms you're servicing, has that decreased? Could we be doing more marketing efforts to engage other farms? And then you jump over to the cost side. Well, we see fixed costs rising. Okay, so even though we're doing the same amount of business, our fixed costs are rising. What could be behind that? This is what we found for this company. Variable cost would be like, is the cost of fuel gone up? Because fuel is on a per load or per transaction basis, right? The wages we're paying to our drivers, okay, because they're hourly. How has that gone? Has that changed? So again, I just want you to like appreciate how this very simple framework can help you get down to diagnosing the problem just as like a first stage. And again, in this company, we found it was a issue with fixed costs. So their business was growing pretty steadily in terms of revenue. Their sort of operating costs, in the sense of like how much you're paying drivers and fuel and the amount of transactions you're doing there, hadn't changed that much. It was an increase in fixed costs. So okay, we zoom in there. Well, what are these fixed cost issues? Well, we're spending more and more money on cost of claims, which, right, important note, that is going to fluctuate a little bit based on how much work you're doing. Like if you have more trucks running and they're running for longer, it's more likely you're going to have an accident, which drives cost of claims up. But from like a profitability framework, that would be treated under fixed cost because it's not directly in proportion to like a cost of goods sold, right? So that's what we discovered for them. But you need to go a level deeper. Why are our insurance claims so high? What's going on with our safety program? What's the issue there? So zoom in another level. This is the next framework I'm going to get you, is you want to make sure you're going from logical to psychological. So you're covering not just the kind of like obvious structures and systems, but you're also looking at the employee psychology element of this. And here's a framework that you can use to assess and then craft solutions. Skills and systems, right? Those are a little bit more logical. So those are the first two, right? People have to have the capabilities, the knowledge and skills to execute what is being asked of them. And then you have to have systems. So this is going to be your technology and your processes primarily. So just to give like a really easy example of that, like the VA example I just gave, but also it's like, let's say you're trying to do a sales enablement project. Okay, so your sales are not hitting the goals you want. So we say, okay, we're going to create this new thing where we want our representatives to do 3 follow-ups after every sales call. And those follow-ups should be personalized based on what you talked about in the call. I'm going to send an email and give them a call if they haven't bought the service after, trying to close the client. Okay. So that's like, all right, great. Well, if you don't have skills and systems, it's not going to happen. So you need to actually first skills, train the representatives on your software, on your CRM, on whatever it is, to say, this is what we expect you to do. After the sales call, you're going to first send an email. By the way, here's how you should structure the email. Then you're going to call them. Here's what you say on the call. And then you're going to do a third follow-up of some sort. Here's what you should say there. So you've now given them the skills, but that's also not enough. You need to have systems in place to support it. So in your CRM or sales software, are you going to have reminders? Can you automate the follow-up emails? And are you going to have one of your managers actually checking to see if they did the follow-ups? Because people respect what you inspect. That's a Chet Holmes line. So you can see why, right? Like, is there a gap in skills? Okay, if people are not executing the follow-up thing, maybe they don't know how. Is there a gap in systems? If they're not executing that follow-up thing, is it because we don't have reminders set up in our tech system? Is it because we're not actually checking to see if they did it to hold them accountable? So you can start to see how you can diagnose problems with this. But again, that's not enough. You need psychological. Shared commitment, which is the buy-in, that the people you're asking to do the thing are actually bought into doing the thing. And then psychological safety, which I know that starts with a P, that's why I put it down here, but safety. Okay, psychological safety is actually very important. It's often overlooked. It really just means that an environment feels safe for trust, for open communication, where people can actually ask questions, voice concerns, and have genuine conversations about what is and isn't being done. And I don't want you to think that's like a PC, like safe spaces, touchy-feely. It's like, no, if you don't have that basic psychological safety where people feel connected with one another, where they can work as a team, and openly communicate, you're not going to get any innovation, and you're also not going to get to the root of what's actually going on, because people are not going to want to speak up. It's, this is the way we've always done it. It's easier not to say anything. Or people are going to be doing two jobs, right? The job of doing their real job, and then the job of like trying to like look good and cover up mistakes. So you need to get both the logical and psychological. So again, this is how you can use this to assess what's going on. So with this company, we've seen their issue was high cost of claims, okay? And so we look at, well, skills. Are drivers being trained on safety? Are the frontline supervisors being like, are they skilled up with like the technical safety program? And so we ended up, well, we'll get to the solutions in a second. Systems, right? What are your checklists and protocols in your written safety plan? And then do you have technology, sensors on the trucks, signals for wearing seat belts, new like technology with cameras and AI, right? How are you doing there? Shared commitment. Do people even care about safety? What are the like incentive structures there? And one of the things we actually noticed is all their drivers, a lot of them had bonuses based on total tonnage. So right there, shared commitment and buy-in, you're incentivizing people to prioritize production over safety. That's a problem. And then psychological safety, we found that they had a lot of issues with like staff versus management, which is very common in businesses, which that can undermine, again, that open communication where, you know, certain times, certain behaviors maybe are just like, I'm not going to say anything, we're not going to deal with it, and they get swept under the rug, and then they escalate until something worse happens. And so it's really hard to like innovate and improve your organization when you don't have that psychological safety. So we're getting to 10 minutes here, so I don't want to go too much longer. How do we build a solution there? This is where you start to diagnose that problem. Okay, you say, well, what's the problem in this organization? It's a safety culture problem primarily. There's an issue with making sure that we've skilled their leadership on influencing people to practice safe behaviors. We know that there's some small systems things in the written safety program that we can bring in an external safety expert to address. We know that there's some buy-in issues. And then we know that there's not a great climate of like trust and open communication, which sometimes leads to safety issues not being addressed the way they could be. Boom. Okay. So then it's really easy once you've done all this to build solutions. Just think through the same 4 buckets for your organization. Okay, so even if it's like a marketing question, right? We're not selling the amount we want to sell. What skills do you need on your marketing team? Are they skilled in marketing through the channels and to the customers you have set up? And then same thing on the sales side. And then systems. I mean, do you have like marketing tech set up? Are you using digital ads? Do you have analytics? All that stuff. And then shared commitment. Okay, well, how can we get our sales team or our marketing team more bought into our mission here? And then do we have that trust and connectedness and open communication over there? If not, how can we do it? So those bottom 2, again, you got to think psychological solutions here. So just to give you a sense what we did in this trucking company, we had all of their drivers and supervisors sign off on letters to their families stating their commitment to safety. Why them? Well, because buy-in, shared commitment, it's not about, oh, we at the company and the CEO are losing money. It's like, no, why are you driving? What do you actually care about? Your family, right? You want to get home to them safely each and every day. And so we brought them into the mix. That's just one way we kind of improve that shared commitment. We also got with the executive team, so top down, and told everyone, hey, here's the situation. Like, if we don't turn this around, the company's not going to be legally able to operate in this state because our insurer is going to drop you. So if you all want to be out of a job, okay, like this is pretty consequential. So it's like, oh, wow, this is serious business, right? That's why we got that shared commitment. Psychological safety, okay, this is not the easiest one to train, but we really just tried to create listening sessions and open forums where every week the whole company, top to bottom, is meeting to openly discuss what's not going right, but also to recognize things that are going right. So people feel like they're being seen, they're being appreciated, they feel that sense of connection, and there's kind of an environment there where they can openly communicate, talk about what they're trying to do, what they're not sure of, ask questions, voice concerns, and we sort of had to create that container, especially to cross that gap between staff and management. And then skills and systems, right? The systems one, we just brought in an external technical safety expert and he kind of trained them and built some new systems. And then same thing on the skills, right? We developed some of their personal skills as leaders. How do you influence people to engage in safe behaviors? And then we had that technical component too. And so again, using this 4S framework, we were able to construct that solution that led to an 80% reduction in cost of claims, $3 million savings in cost of claims alone, and one of the best years for profitability in the last decade. So hope you found this video helpful. I'm at about 15 minutes, so I got to end it. Respect your time. But again, use this model, this framework, this way of thinking of diagnosing the problem, getting down to the real root problem, assessing the problem with the 4S model, and then constructing solutions with the 4S model and ongoing implementation. And that should help you work through just about like any business problem or challenge or goal that you're trying to address. Okay, so this has been Jackson Kirchis with HMB and WLT companies. We help small to mid-sized businesses solve their people problems, teaching you the skills as well to help you be at your best in both your work and your life. So check out the channel, reach out if there's anything we can do, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.